In the cities, they are very careful to write the old ones down in records. In my village, we are careful never to let them become a record. The light that arrives first in Okinawa does not announce itself. It seeps, pale and unhurried, through the shoji screen of Kameko Shimabukuro's room, pooling across the tatami in long amber ribbons before the island has fully decided to wake. At 100 years old, she is already awake. She has always been awake before the light. She moves the way tidal water moves, slowly, with absolute certainty about where it is going. Subscribe so Kameko's story finds you in every chapter like this, so it finds someone else who needs it just as much as you did today. The rest of her story is coming. Honor that. Don't let her speak to an empty room. Her hands find the edge of the sleeping mat without searching. They are the hands of someone who has kneaded bread, buried parents, harvested bitter melon, and held newborns. Veined like old river maps, are trembling faintly at the knuckles, purposeful in a way that makes the trembling irrelevant. This morning, they curl around a small clay cup of shampoo herb tea, still steaming, and carry it to her lips with the gravity of ceremony. The first act of her morning is not eating, it is not stretching, it is witnessing. She settles onto the low cushion before the butsudan, the lacquered family altar where 3 generations of Shimabukuros exist now only as photographs and incense smoke, and she becomes still. Not the stillness of someone waiting, the stillness of someone who has already arrived somewhere. The rest of the world is still searching for directions too. Her eyes, slightly hooded beneath folds of sun-deepened skin, stay open and soft. They hold the particular quality of eyes that have seen enough to stop being startled, sharp, the observant, reading something in the middle distance that has no entry in any modern dictionary. Her face deeply lined in the way that topographic maps are deeply lined. Then the telephone rings. Not an emergency. Her grandson Kenji has learned, at least, to call at a decent hour. But there is something in the particular texture of his voice as it enters the room, clipped, pressurized, carrying the faint static of a Tokyo morning commute. He has found a place, he says, a residence, very modern, attentive around the clock, a staff-to-resident ratio she would find reassuring. Kameko listens without interrupting. She holds the receiver the way she holds her tea, cupped in both palms close to the chest, offering it the patience it has not earned. When he finishes, a silence opens between them, long and unhurried, the kind only the very old know how to inhabit without discomfort. Kenji, she says at last, in the slow Okinawan dialect that has always made mainland speakers lean forward slightly, as though the words are arriving from a greater distance than geography explains. Who will remember me there? He mistakes this for a question about memory care protocols. She lets him. Because she already knows something, he will need the rest of this story to understand that to be remembered is not the same as being on file, that a woman is not kept alive by monitoring equipment and structured meal rotations, that in Okinawa you do not forget to die because someone is watching your vitals, that you forget to die because 20 people need you to still be here tomorrow. Her Moai arrived the way they always did, without knocking. By the time the morning had fully committed to itself, 4 women occupied Kameko's front room, as naturally as furniture. Higa-san arranging persimmons on a ceramic dish, Oshiro-san lowering herself onto the floor cushion with theatrical complaint about her left knee. Miyagi-san already talking about something she'd dreamed. On Tomoko, youngest at 83, pouring tea into cups she knew the location of without asking. No institution had assembled them. No schedule had summoned them. They had simply, as they had for 6 decades, shown up, drawn by the invisible thread of Yuimaru that stitched this village together beneath the surface of ordinary days. Kameko sat among them the way a reef sits among water, still, central, the thing everything else orients around. They spoke about Miyagi-san's grandson's new wife, about the price of Goya, about nothing of great consequence and everything of great importance. This was the medicine that no brochure listed. No staff-to-resident ratio could manufacture it. No residence in Tokyo could replicate the specific, irreplaceable warmth of being known, not assisted, not monitored, known. Breakfast in Kameko's kitchen is not prepared. It is assembled the way a prayer is assembled, each element chosen with quiet reverence. Sliced Goya, bitter melon, green and uncompromising, sweats gently in a cast-iron pan alongside silken tofu and a tangle of mozuku seaweed pulled from the cove 3 mornings ago. No salt beyond what the sea already gave it. No excess beyond what the body will actually use. This is the practice her mother called nuchigusui, medicine of life, and her mother's mother called simply common sense. She eats slowly, the way she does everything, with full attention and no urgency. At the third to last mouthful, she sets her chopsticks down across the bowl, not because she is finished, because she is enough. Kameko does not make mistakes. Thus she has been weaving this particular length of cloth for 11 months. She is not rushing toward its completion. The weaving is not the point. The weaving is the living. Each thread pulled taut is a year she did not waste. Each knot is someone she loved. The cloth will be finished, she has always believed, precisely when she is. The preparations begin the way all sacred things begin in Okinawa, not with announcements, but with hands. 3 days before Kameko's Kajimayo, Higa-san appears at the gate with bitter melon and no explanation. Then Yoshida's widow with ribbon and red fabric. Then 4 more, each carrying something nobody summoned. The village does not organize celebrations. It simply becomes one. On the morning itself, they dress her. This is the part Kenji watching from the doorway in his pressed Tokyo shirt. Ted does not expect the tenderness of it. At every doorway in Okinawa, 2 shisa stand watch. One mouth open to swallow misfortune. One mouth sealed to hold good fortune inside. Kameko had dusted the pair above her own entrance every morning for 60 years without thinking about it. Today, for the first time, she thought about it. She had been a guardian the same way, quietly, without ceremony, without asking whether the threshold still needed keeping. Her granddaughter had once asked why the statues looked so fierce when their job was protection. Because some things are only protected by someone willing to look frightening to the thing that threatens them. She was not frightening. She knew this. She was 100 years old, silver-haired, and unhurried. Kameko tends her bitter melon vines at the same hour she has always tended them. And she walks the same stone-bordered path to Higa-san's gate, where 2 old women drink tea and say very little and somehow communicate everything. She laughs, genuinely, from somewhere below the ribs, at things that would seem small to anyone arriving from elsewhere. This is what the researchers who visit with their clipboards never quite manage to transcribe. That the Okinawan secret is not a diet, not a stretching routine, not a philosophy you can transliterate into a wellness application. It is simply the radical act of being needed. Every morning, Kameko wakes because her garden requires her, because her Moai would notice her absence before noon, because somewhere in the village, someone is holding a question only 100 years can answer. She does not live long. She simply never stops living. Somewhere right now, there is an elder sitting alone in a room that smells of antiseptic and scheduled kindness, waiting for a visit that may not come, holding a lifetime of answers nobody is staying long enough to ask for. Kameko's story is not just a story about Okinawa. It is a mirror. It is a question we have been avoiding, about how we treat the people who carried us here. The grandmothers who remember the names of every neighbor. The grandfathers who know which root heals a fever. The elders whose very presence is a form of medicine we are slowly, carelessly discarding. If this story made something stir in your chest, if it made you think of someone you love, someone you should call, someone the world is forgetting too quickly, then it was written for you. Subscribe, not for the content. But because stories like this deserve to travel further than one screen, one moment, one quiet morning of reading. Like this, so the next person who needs Kameko finds her.